The last set of single row functions are what Oracle calls other or miscellaneous functions. In other words, they can't be categorized into a specific group, but they are essential. NVL we've already seen. Here's the list of all the other functions that I can currently find in the 11G R2 manual. The only ones we're interested in for this course are the red highlighted ones. Coalesce, decode, greatest, least, null if, NVL and users. The other ones are obscure or too advanced for this course. Regular expressions will be presented in the next course. A lot of them are XML functionality, which may be a specific topic for a specific course in the future. What does coalesce do? It returns the first non-null expression in a list of expressions. Decode. Decode allows you to change the values in an expression as you're going through a query. We'll show you by example, much easier to explain that way. Greatest finds the greatest expression in a list of expressions, and the least, the least. Null if will return a null value if an expression is null. NVL basically replaces any null values with a replacement value. User returns the current connected user, or the in-memory variable settings of the Oracle database. That's where things like the sysdate value come from, and the system timestamp. So let's go and take a look at examples. And here are the examples. Let's copy and paste this, go back into SQL Developer once again, and explain by example. Coalesce says find the first value in a list of things or expressions that is not null. So it finds that one. If I was to change this to X, it's going to find the first one, which is not null, which happens to be X. Decode, in its simplest form, is a little bit like a programming case statement. It's a very simplistic case statement. A case statement in programming terms is where you say, if I have this case, then I get this result, or if I have that case, I get that result. A case statement is also like an if statement. An if statement allows you to say, if this situation, do this, otherwise do that, else do something else. What decode does here is says, if this constraint type is a P, return the word primary key. If it's an R, return the word foreign key. If it's a U, return unique key. If I don't have P, R, or U, I have some other value, or I have a null, it will return unknown. What I'm doing here is I'm using an example from the Oracle metadata on constraints that you saw in the previous chapter when we created tables. Well, I'm using multiple examples just to explain what I'm trying to explain. First of all, I'm going to go and look at all the constraints in my current schema, and these are all my constraints. These happen to be my primary keys because they're named automatically by Oracle. And here you can see some primary keys that I've named myself, as well as unique keys, XUK for unique key, and there will be some foreign key definitions in there as well. Now I'm going to go and find the distinct constraint type from this table, and it says I have R, U, P, and C. C is actually a check constraint. It's not an index, so I'm not interested in it in this particular query. So now I'm going to run this query and show you the decode function in action. We've got constraint name and then the various settings. What I should do to explain it properly is to put the constraint type in here so you can see the change as it happens. We'll run this again. As you can see, there's a problem here because the column name's too long. So I can solve that very simply by saying as type. anything, just a word that replaces the column name, and it allows it to reduce the size of this column based on the header. C, check constraint unknown, check constraint unknown, P primary key, U unique key, R foreign key, referential integrity. It means reference. When you type in a foreign key definition, you say reference. Reference is a table. So that's the decode function. Find the greatest of these values. Well, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, you get 5. Find the least of these 5 values. Right, they're strings. If you take all these strings and sort them alphabetically, the lowest one is actually 5. Because 5 occurs before 4, because O comes after I, and obviously O and T occur after 5. The null if function actually takes, I'm looking in the manual here because I wasn't quite sure exactly what it did, takes expression 1 and 2 and compares them. If they're equal, it returns a null. So null if these things are equal, and not null if they're not equal. So here it says 2 strings, they're both the same. Null if they're both the same, returns a null. A and B are different. Null if doesn't return a null because they're not the same. It actually returns the value. Here's an instance of NVL, which we've seen throughout this course so far. For any show dates that have null values, I'm going to return the sysdate. So looking down through this data, if I look for a null date that's been replaced with the sysdate, which is the 26th of March. And this is a function that allows me to find out who I am, what my username is when I'm connected.